The heart monitor flatlined for half a second before erupting into chaotic beeping. Clear! Adrian's body jerked violently as the defibrillator shocked his chest. Come on, come on, a doctor muttered. Blood covered the front of his shirt. Rainwater still clung to his hair. The smell of burnt rubber and metal seemed to follow him into the emergency room. Pulse is weak. Prep for surgery. The doors burst open again as Victor Vale stormed in. Where is my son? He demanded. A nurse stepped in front of him. Sir, you can't be in here. I don't care about protocol, Victor snapped. That is my son. Another doctor approached, removing his gloves. Mr. Vale. Victor turned sharply. Is he alive? The doctor hesitated just long enough to make Victor's stomach drop. He's critical. The word echoed. Critical. Victor's voice lowered, almost unrecognizable. Explain. He has severe internal bleeding. Head trauma. We're stabilizing him, but... The doctor paused. He's lost a dangerous amount of blood. Victor swallowed. Then give him blood. There's a complication. What complication? He has a rare blood type, AB negative. Victor's eyes flickered. We're checking the National Registry, the doctor continued, but availability is limited. Victor stepped closer. Test me. The doctor nodded. We already did. And you're a match. Relief flashed across Victor's face, then faded. There's more, the doctor added carefully. Because of his blood loss and the internal damage, he may need a large volume transfusion. The strain on a donor at your age. I don't care about strain, Victor cut in. There is risk, the doctor said firmly. Significant risk. Victor stared at the operating room doors. For a split second, fear overtook him. Not fear of losing his son. Fear of dying, the doctor continued. There's another match. Victor looked up slowly. Who? The doctor checked the file. Lena Morales. The name felt like a slap. Victor's jaw tightened. Call her, he said. Across town, Lena's phone vibrated on the kitchen table. She stared at the unknown hospital number before answering. Hello? Miss Morales, this is St. Augustine Medical Center. Her stomach dropped. There's been an accident, the voice continued. It's Adrian Vale. The room spun. What happened? She whispered. He's critical. We need you to come immediately. She didn't ask permission. She grabbed her bag. Rosa followed her to the door. What is it? It's Adrian. Rosa's face went pale. Go. The hospital hallway felt colder than she expected. Victor stood near the operating room, speaking in low tones to a surgeon. When he saw Lena walking toward him, something unreadable crossed his face. She stopped a few feet away. What happened? She asked. Victor didn't answer immediately. He was in an accident, he said finally. Is he going to be okay? We don't know. The doctor stepped forward. Miss Morales, we tested you previously for blood donation during one of our community drives. You are a confirmed match. Lena blinked. What does that mean? It means, the doctor said gently, he may not survive without you. Victor closed his eyes briefly. Lena's hands began to tremble. How bad is it? He's lost too much blood, the doctor replied. We need to move quickly. Lena looked at the operating room doors. Her heart pounded violently. Victor spoke quietly. You don't have to... She turned sharply. Don't. He stopped. The doctor added, There are risks. You may experience complications from donating this volume. I don't care, Lena whispered automatically. But then, her mind flashed back. The garden, the gates closing, Victor's voice accusing her of manipulation. Girls like you know exactly what you're doing. Her breathing became uneven. The doctor waited. Miss Morales. She stepped back slightly. You fired my mother, she said softly, not looking at Victor. The hallway went silent. Victor's voice lowered. This is not the time. When was the time? She asked, eyes filling. When you called us opportunists. Victor's composure cracked. This is about my son's life. It was always about your son's life, she replied. Never about mine. The doctor intervened carefully. We don't have much time. Victor took one step closer. I was wrong, he said quietly. Lena looked at him. It was the first time she had ever heard those words from him. I misjudged you. She swallowed hard. You humiliated my mother. I know. You thought I wanted his money. I know. Her voice shook now. You threw us out like we were nothing. Victor's shoulders lowered slightly. And yet, he said softly, you are the only one who can save him. The words hit differently. Not as an order, as a plea. Lena felt her chest tighten painfully. She imagined Adrian alone in that room, unconscious, fighting. Tears slid down her face. The doctor spoke urgently. Miss Morales, I need an answer. She closed her eyes and whispered, take me to him. If you're feeling the tension right now, don't forget to like this video, because what she decides next will change all of them forever. They wheeled Lena down the corridor quickly. The fluorescent lights above blurred as her mind raced. Before we proceed, you need to understand the risks, the doctor said while walking beside her. This is not a standard donation. He may require a large volume. Your body will be under strain. I said I understand, she replied, though her voice trembled. Stress, dizziness, possible complications. I don't care about that, she said. But she did. She was scared. Not of pain, of what this meant. They stopped briefly outside the operating room. Through the glass panel, she could see Adrian lying still. Tubes, machines, blood. Her breath caught in her throat. He looked smaller, fragile, not the confident man who had stood against his father, not the stubborn boy who said he'd leave everything for her. Just human. Her hand pressed gently against the glass. Why do you always make things dramatic? She whispered under her breath. Behind her, Victor watched silently. He had never seen someone look at his son like that. Not with calculation, not with expectation, but with fear. Pure fear. The doctor handed Lena a consent form. This must be signed immediately. Her eyes scanned the words, but she barely processed them. Will he survive? She asked quietly. The doctor answered honestly. This gives him a fighting chance. A fighting chance. Victor stepped forward slowly. If you choose not to do this, he began. She turned sharply. Stop saying that. I'm not ordering you, he said. I'm telling you the truth. You don't owe us anything. She let out a broken laugh. That's the first honest thing you've said to me. He accepted the blow. You don't owe me, he corrected himself. But he loves you. Her chest tightened painfully. Don't use that. I'm not using it. Then don't. The hallway fell silent again. She thought of the live stream, the ring, the applause, the way he looked at Camille. But she also remembered the garden, the way he said her name like it mattered. Her hand tightened around the pen. I'm not doing this for you, she said firmly to Victor. I know. I'm not doing it to fix what happened. I know. I'm doing it because I love him. Victor's voice lowered. I know. She signed. The nurse gently guided her toward another room. Victor stood frozen. For the first time in years, he felt completely powerless. Inside the prep room, Lena sat on the edge of the hospital bed. A nurse wrapped a cuff around her arm. You can still change your mind, the nurse said softly. Lena shook her head. Does he know? She asked. He's unconscious. She swallowed. Tell him I was here. The nurse smiled faintly. He'll know. Meanwhile, in another consultation room, a different doctor stood with Victor. We should also prepare you, Mr. Vale. Victor frowned. Prepare me for what? In case additional blood is required. You said she was enough. We hope she will be, the doctor replied carefully. But we need contingency. Victor felt a familiar tightness in his chest. You said there was risk. There is. Victor looked down at his hands. Years ago, he had stood in another hospital hallway. Another love. Another decision. He had hesitated then, too. And that hesitation had cost him more than money. The doctor's voice interrupted his thoughts. If we need you, we won't have time to debate. Victor nodded slowly. Understood. Inside the operating room, Adrian's heart rate dipped again. Pressure's dropping! Start the transfusion! The line connected. Blood began to flow. In the adjacent room, Lena felt a wave of dizziness almost immediately. Her fingers curled slightly. You okay? The nurse asked. Yes, she whispered. But her lips had turned pale. She imagined Adrian waking up. She imagined him asking why she came. She imagined him blaming himself. Tears slipped silently down her temples. You better survive this, she murmured to herself, because I am not explaining this twice. Back in the hallway, Victor paced. Camille arrived unexpectedly, breathless. I came as soon as I heard, she said. Victor nodded stiffly. Is he alive? For now. She noticed the tension in his posture. Who's donating? Victor hesitated. Lena. Camille blinked. For a moment, something unreadable crossed her face. Then she exhaled slowly. Of course she is. Victor looked at her. You're not surprised? Camille shook her head gently. You can't fake that kind of love. The words cut deeper than she intended. Victor looked away. Inside, the surgery stretched on. Minutes felt like hours. A nurse rushed out briefly. Is he stable? Victor demanded. For the moment, she replied. But he's not out of danger. Victor leaned against the wall. For the first time in his life, money could not accelerate time. Power could not control outcome. All he could do was wait. If you've made it this far, comment below. Would you forgive someone who hurt you if their life depended on you? Because Lena is about to face a second decision. Her blood pressure is dropping. The nurse's voice cut through the room sharply. Lena's vision blurred for a moment. I'm fine, she whispered. You're not, the nurse replied gently. We may need to slow the rate. No, Lena said immediately. Don't slow it. Miss Morales. He needs it more than I do. The nurse hesitated, then adjusted the monitor carefully. In the operating room next door, Adrian's pulse flickered on the screen. Heart rate stabilizing. Pressure improving. The lead surgeon exhaled slowly. Keep it steady. Back in the hallway, Victor watched the red light above the operating room door. Camille stood a few steps behind him. You look like you're praying, she said quietly. Victor didn't turn around. I don't pray. You are now. He didn't deny it. A doctor stepped out quickly. Mr. Vale. Victor straightened. Yes. Your son is responding to the transfusion. It's working. Relief flooded him, but it was fragile. And Lena? He asked before he could stop himself. The doctor hesitated. She's showing signs of strain. We may need a secondary donor. Victor's throat tightened. You said she was enough. She is helping tremendously, the doctor replied. But this is severe trauma. Victor stared at the door. Secondary donor. That meant him. His hands felt colder suddenly. Camille stepped closer. You're a match too. Victor didn't answer. Years ago, he had been in another hospital corridor. Another woman he loved had needed surgery. There had been risk. He had told himself someone else would step forward. Someone younger, stronger. By the time he overcame his hesitation, it was too late. The memory pressed against his chest like a weight. The doctor spoke again. "We need to know if you're willing." Victor closed his eyes briefly. "Prepare me," he said. Camille looked at him carefully. "You're afraid," she said quietly. "Yes," he replied honestly. "That doesn't make you weak." "It did before," he murmured. In the adjacent room, Lena felt the dizziness intensify. Her breathing became uneven. "Miss Morales, talk to me," the nurse urged. She tried to focus. "What's his heart rate?" she asked faintly. "Improving." She smiled weakly. "Good. You need to think about yourself." "I am," she whispered. "If he dies, I won't survive it anyway." The nurse paused. "Does he know you're here?" "He'll know," she murmured. The room tilted slightly. "Stay with me," the nurse said firmly. Lena clenched her jaw. "I'm not leaving." Back in the operating room, a surgeon looked at the monitors. "We need more volume." The door opened again. "Mr. Vale is ready," a nurse announced. Victor entered the prep room. As he rolled up his sleeve, he glanced through the glass into Lena's room. He saw her pale face, her eyes barely open, her arm extended. For him, for his son. The weight of his past pressed down heavily. "You were wrong," he muttered under his breath. No one heard him. He lay back on the hospital bed. "Start it," he said. The needle pierced his skin. He didn't flinch. In Lena's room, her head turned slightly toward the window. The rain had stopped. She whispered softly, "You don't get to leave me like this, Adrian." Her voice trembled. "You don't get to make me do something this dramatic." A faint smile touched her lips before fading. The nurse monitored both lines carefully. "Both donors are active," she reported. Inside the operating room, the surgeons worked with renewed focus. Vitals stabilizing further, pressure holding. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, the lead surgeon stepped back. "He's responding." The tension in the room shifted slightly. In the donor rooms, Lena's eyes fluttered closed. "Miss Morales?" the nurse called. Her pulse dipped briefly. Across the hall, Victor felt a wave of weakness but forced himself to remain still. "Is he stable?" he asked faintly. "Yes," the nurse replied. "He's stable." Victor closed his eyes. For the first time in years, relief didn't feel like victory. It felt humbling. After what felt like an eternity, the operating room doors finally opened. The surgeon removed his mask. "He's out of immediate danger." Victor exhaled sharply. Camille pressed her hand to her mouth. "But," the surgeon continued, "recovery will be long. He's not conscious yet." Victor nodded slowly. "And the donors?" "Both are stable," the doctor said, though Miss Morales pushed herself. Victor stood immediately. "Take me to her." When he entered her room, Lena lay unconscious, pale but breathing steadily. Her mother stood beside her, tears in her eyes. Rosa looked up at Victor. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Rosa said quietly. She didn't hesitate. Victor's voice was rough. "I know." "You were wrong about her," Rosa added. He didn't argue. "Yes," he said, "I was. If you're still watching, like this video now, because what happens when Adrian wakes up will change every relationship in this story." Adrian, can you hear me?" The doctor's voice was steady but urgent. A faint twitch moved through Adrian's fingers. "Pressure's holding." "Good, stay with us." Victor stood at the foot of the hospital bed, hands clasped so tightly his knuckles had turned white. "Adrian," he said, his voice low but firm, "open your eyes." For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, painfully, Adrian's eyelids fluttered. The room seemed too bright, the sound of machines too loud. He blinked once, twice. His lips moved slightly. Victor leaned closer. "It's me." Adrian's gaze struggled to focus. Dad? He whispered faintly. Relief hit Victor so hard he had to steady himself. Yes, I'm here. Adrian swallowed painfully. What happened? You were in an accident, the doctor explained. You're safe now. Adrian's eyes shifted weakly around the room. Lena, he murmured. Victor froze. The doctor glanced at Victor briefly before stepping back. Adrian's voice cracked. Where's Lena? Victor hesitated only a second. She's here, he said quietly. Adrian's breathing quickened. Is she okay? She saved you, Victor replied. Adrian's brow furrowed slightly. What? She donated blood, Victor said, when we needed it most. Adrian's eyes widened faintly despite the exhaustion. She was here? Yes. And you let her? The question pierced deeper than Adrian intended. Victor didn't defend himself. She chose to, he said honestly. Adrian closed his eyes briefly, emotion flooding through him. I thought I lost her, he whispered. Victor swallowed. You almost did. Silence lingered between them. Then Adrian spoke again, weaker now. Is she okay? She's resting. I need to see her. You need to recover, the doctor interjected gently. Adrian's voice sharpened despite his condition. I need to see her. Victor looked at the doctor. The doctor sighed softly, briefly. When she wakes. In another room, Lena slowly opened her eyes. The ceiling came into focus first. Then the sound of her mother's voice. Lena? She turned her head slightly. Mom? Rosa's face was wet with tears. You scared me. Lena tried to sit up. Don't, Rosa urged. You need rest. Adrian, Lena whispered immediately. He's alive, Rosa said quickly. He's awake. Lena exhaled shakily. He's okay? Yes. Her eyes filled instantly. Good, she whispered. The door opened quietly. Victor stepped inside. Rosa stiffened slightly. Lena looked at him, her expression guarded but tired. Victor didn't approach immediately. I owe you, he said quietly. You don't owe me, Lena replied weakly. I do. She shook her head slightly. I didn't do it for you. I know. Silence. Victor stepped closer. When I told you that you didn't owe us anything, I meant it, he said, but you chose to help anyway. She held his gaze. I love him. I see that now. Her voice trembled faintly. Do you? Yes. It wasn't defensive. It wasn't forced. It was quiet truth. Victor looked down briefly before speaking again. I misjudged you. I misjudged your mother. I let my fear speak louder than my judgment. Lena watched him carefully. You humiliated us, she said softly. I did. You thought I was after his money. I was wrong. Rosa stood silent, listening. Victor continued. You risked your life for him. Lena gave a faint, exhausted smile. You did too. Victor paused. Yes, he admitted. Their eyes met. For the first time, not as enemies, but as two people who had both almost lost him. A nurse stepped in gently. He's asking for her. Lena's heart jumped. Victor looked at her. He won't calm down. She pushed herself up slowly, despite the weakness. I'm going. You shouldn't strain yourself, Rosa warned. I'm fine, Lena insisted softly. Victor stepped aside. As she entered Adrian's room, he turned his head weakly toward the doorway. When he saw her, his eyes filled instantly. You're here, he whispered. She walked closer slowly. You're dramatic, she said softly, voice shaking. He gave the faintest attempt at a smile. You came. Of course I did. He swallowed painfully. Why? She stared at him. You really want me to answer that? His voice cracked. You saw the engagement. Yes. I didn't mean... Don't, she interrupted gently. We'll fight later. He let out a shaky breath. You saved me. She shook her head. You saved yourself. He reached for her hand weakly. You shouldn't have risked it. And you shouldn't have looked at your phone while driving. A tear slipped down his temple. I thought I lost you. You almost did. He squeezed her fingers faintly. I don't want to lose you again. She looked at him carefully. You won't, she whispered. Behind them, Victor stood at the doorway watching. Camille appeared quietly beside him. He loves her, Camille said softly. Yes, Victor replied. And she loves him. Yes. Camille exhaled slowly. Then don't make him choose again. Victor didn't answer immediately. 3 days later, the hospital room felt quieter. The machines still hummed, but the urgency was gone. Adrian sat upright now, pale but stable. Lena sat across from him, still recovering, her movements slower than usual. Neither of them spoke for a moment. Finally, Adrian broke the silence. You should be resting. So should you, she replied. He watched her carefully. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. No, he insisted softly. After everything my father said, after what I did at that dinner, she met his eyes. You think I saved you because everything was perfect? He looked down. I think you deserved better. I did, she said calmly. He flinched slightly. But that doesn't mean I stopped loving you. Silence stretched between them. He swallowed. I thought I was protecting you. By marrying someone else? He closed his eyes briefly. I thought if I gave him what he wanted, he'd leave you alone. And did he? She asked gently. Adrian didn't answer. The door opened quietly. Victor stepped inside. Adrian stiffened slightly. Lena glanced at him but didn't move away. Victor stood in front of his son. There's something I need to say, he began. Adrian's expression hardened slightly. If this is about the engagement... It is, Victor interrupted. Lena's fingers tightened subtly. Victor inhaled slowly. I ended it. Adrian blinked. What? I spoke to Camille's father this morning. Adrian stared at him. You canceled it. Yes. Why? Victor looked directly at Lena before answering. Because I was wrong. The room went silent. Victor continued. I built my life on control, on planning outcomes, on minimizing risk. His voice softened. But some risks are worth taking. Adrian searched his father's face. You mean her? Yes. Victor turned fully toward Lena. I judged you based on fear, he said, not fact. She didn't speak. I thought love would weaken him, Victor continued. But it made him stronger. Adrian's voice trembled slightly. You mean that? Yes. Victor stepped closer. I lost someone once because I chose pride over vulnerability. His eyes flickered briefly. I will not lose my son the same way. The weight of those words settled heavily. Lena spoke carefully. You hurt us. I know. You humiliated my mother. I know. You made me feel small. Victor lowered his gaze. I can't undo that. No, she said softly. You can't. Adrian looked between them, tense. Victor straightened slightly. But I can acknowledge it. Publicly. Adrian frowned. Publicly? Yes. The following week, a press conference was announced. Not for a merger, not for a business expansion, but for something unexpected. Reporters gathered again. Cameras flashed. Victor stepped up to the podium. Adrian stood beside him. Lena stood slightly behind, uncertain. Victor spoke clearly. Last week, my son survived a life-threatening accident. Murmurs filled the room. He survived because of extraordinary medical care And because of the courage of one person. Victor stepped aside slightly. Lena Morales. Cameras shifted instantly toward her. She risked her life to save my son, Victor continued. And in doing so, she revealed something I had forgotten. He paused. That strength does not come from wealth. It comes from character. The room was silent now. I publicly apologize, Victor said firmly, for my previous treatment of her and her family. Gasps spread quietly. I misjudged her. I misjudged love, and I will not stand in the way of my son's happiness. Adrian's chest tightened. Lena felt her breath catch. Victor turned toward Adrian. If he chooses her, he said clearly, he does so with my blessing. The silence broke into a wave of murmurs. Adrian didn't wait. He turned toward Lena. I don't want to choose without you choosing me back, he said quietly. She stepped forward. You're still dramatic, she whispered. Answer me, he replied softly. She looked at Victor briefly, then back at Adrian. I never stopped choosing you. The room erupted into flashes of light and whispers. Victor watched them. For the first time, he felt something unfamiliar. Peace. Later that evening, Camille approached Lena privately. You won, Camille said calmly. Lena shook her head. This wasn't a competition. Camille gave a faint smile. No, it wasn't. She paused. He loves you differently. I know. Camille nodded once. Take care of him. I will. Months later, the mansion garden looked different. Not because the roses had changed, but because the atmosphere had. Lena stood beside Adrian under a simple floral arch. No massive spectacle, no political strategy. Just family, just choice. Victor stood in the front row, not controlling, not calculating, watching. When Adrian slipped the ring onto Lena's finger, his voice shook. I choose you, he said. She smiled softly. I know. And for once, no one objected. If you made it to the end of this story, comment below. Do you believe true love always prevails? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if this story moved you. Because sometimes the person they throw away becomes the one who saves everything.